All you greenhorns who wanted to see Covenant up close, this is gonna be your lucky day.
Halo Campaign Evolved is one of the most visually disgusting looking games I've ever seen. It's just flat out ugly most of the time. And I'm not just talking about the character models, which are horrendous, but the animations are awful, especially when compared to the past games. This ugliness also extends to the CG cutscenes. It looks worse than the stuff you would have seen back on the Sci-Fi Channel in the early 2000s. Okay, so one thing I've never done is explain how I see these things, and I feel like I kinda need to, especially when it comes to this game, because people get this confused all the time. There's a difference between the graphics technology, the art style, and the final visual. Technically speaking, the graphic engineering here is impressive. Unreal Engine 5 is doing a lot of heavy lifting under the hood. But then you had the visuals, which is how it all comes together in the end, not the individual parts. It's not just about the tech or the art style, it's about whether that final image is mastered properly to be seen in the best way possible. And the visual presentation here is a complete disaster. Now, I hear this excuse all the time. You just don't like the art style or the artistic intent. So let's just get this straight. Mario has an art style. The static backgrounds of classic Resident Evil games were an art style built out of design and necessity. And yes, post-processing can be a part of an art style. It looks great in games like BioShock Infinite. But art style starts from the base designs, the models, and the lighting. To actively destroy that underlying work with heavy post-processing is just dumb. And for the record, no, I don't consider Chromatic Aberration to be an art style. It is a busted effect designed to look like a busted camera lens. I don't think it's an artistic choice at all. They are literally just using it as a paper bag over someone's face to cover up the flaws in the game, which ironically makes it even more flawed. But even if we pretend that this was their artistic intent, then their intent is bad. If an artist's goal is to make something visually ugly for the viewer, and I don't mean the cool ugly like Jason without his mask, I mean actively ruining the presentation and picture quality. That's not art style, that's art degradation. And because of that, it doesn't matter if the individual assets underneath are good. How I see this stuff is not necessarily the easiest thing to put into words, but one of the best ways I can describe it is this. It's like someone painted the greatest piece of art that ever existed, but you're only allowed to view it from a mile away in the pouring rain. All of the individual parts might be good, but you can't see it. Now, of course, this is Unreal Engine 5, which can look great, but this is not how you do it. So I'm playing the PC version, and I can run it on ultra settings with DLSS if I want to, but I shouldn't have to. I should not have to have the highest settings cranked up just so that there isn't this disgusting noise everywhere. In game, some of the model assets are pretty good, especially on the Covenant, but they're hard to see because everything is just blurred under this soft velvet-like wash. From the very beginning of the game, if you're not on ultra settings, you're going to notice horrible noise, light flickering from Lumen, shadow pixelation, and just extra flickering that's coming from somewhere that is everywhere. Temporal solutions should get rid of this. They should be able to denoise it and make it a clean image, but that doesn't happen here. It's the worst I've seen since the console version of Alan Wake 2 when it first launched. And just to compound one extra ugly thing on top of everything else, they of course forced in some of the worst and heaviest chromatic aberration I have seen in a long time. And there's moments where they even up the strength of it. This game looks like a bootleg copy of a movie that somebody went to the theater and filmed with a VHS tape of the projector screen. And the worst part? You can't turn any of it off. It won't let you. Also, you can't seem to turn off NVIDIA Reflex, which seems to be stuck on or it's just bugged, which means it's going to kill your 1% frame times on PC. What makes this so bad is the fact that all the work the artist did, like I said earlier, you can't even see it because of the muddy filters. And besides that, everything about it just looks and feels wrong. It's washed out and hazy. Whether you're inside or outside, it looks like you're smack dab in the center of a smoking only bar. The Silent Cartographer is the best looking mission, and it's also a perfect example of the game's flaws. On the beach, in the bright open daylight, it's gorgeous. But the second you go indoors, or you get close to grass, shadows, or trees, the Lumen engine falls apart into a noisy mess, and the flashlight is just awful. The flashlight in Halo was always one of my favorite things about the game. It was just beautiful how it lit up the darkness, and it was so clean and clear. Now it's just a noisy disaster. You see more of that ugly reflection noise and it hinders the visuals. And then again, you don't even need to turn it on because the game is already so washed out and bright, which makes the flashlight completely pointless. Halo also does not have a dynamic time of day. They should have baked what they needed and used standard ray trace shadows or reflections at higher quality. There is zero need for real-time heavy global illumination across the entire environment in a game where you are trying to push this much detail, because when you do that, you're stuck with lower resolutions or bad versions of the GI itself, and also worse versions of the shadows and reflections. If they really wanted to use Lumen, they should have just restricted it to the flashlight, or used targeted character probes that if an enemy is in range of light or shadow, they get their own little light pickup, instead of forcing a global effect that ruins the image, because it can't be done at a high enough quality. But it's not just the graphics. They broke the game. The enemy AI is far worse than ever before. The Covenant are genuinely dumb. They don't even run out of the way of grenades or the Warthog anymore. And I even had a Flood doing some very questionable things to a wall. If you compared this to the original and the Master Chief Collection, if you're playing them all on the same difficulty, this is extremely easy. And then there's Cortana, and she looks worse in this one than any of the games before. She doesn't look like Dr. Halsey, and she doesn't look like her voice actor either. It feels like they used Unreal Engine's MetaHuman and tried to make it look as close as they possibly could. Tweaked a few sliders and just called it a day. Half of the community is pointing out that she looks exactly like a streamer called Germa, and once you see it, it's kinda hard to unsee it. Because this is probably MetaHuman, that explains a lot of the lip syncing issue. It's not just her mouth that looks awkward, it's everyone's mouth when they talk. They lean so hard into Unreal Engine 5 tech, it seems they completely abandoned the art style of what Halo is known for. And the final visuals we get on screen are an absolute disaster. And the gameplay isn't the only part that looks bad. The cutscenes do as well. And these are CG cutscenes. They are not rendered in real time, which makes some of the issues that you see here even more confusing. One of the biggest ones is Master Chief's visor. At times it's just missing reflections in some scenes, and you still have jagged edges and bad textures. That doesn't make sense, and sometimes they play at 32 frames a second instead of a properly paced 30. I don't understand how they even messed up the CG. Now unfortunately, that disconnect does extend to the audio, and this part is honestly kinda sad. The voice actor Steve Downes is a legend. To most of us, he is Master Chief, but it's obvious that his age is showing. His voice just isn't as strong as it used to be, and it doesn't hit with the same impact that it used to. You could hear it in Infinite as well, but it's more noticeable here than it was then. And that sucks because who could replace him? His voice is iconic and it fits Chief perfectly. And that part's just kind of a downer. So, am I being overly critical or harsh here? Maybe. But this is Halo. Xbox literally would not exist without it. This is the legend that built the green machine, and it deserves to be treated with that level of respect. I feel the exact same way about this franchise as I do about Final Fantasy. It's the same reason I criticize Final Fantasy 16 so heavily. Both of these games take legendary lineages and bury them under the exact same kind of visual destruction of the image. This used to be 343 Industries. The one thing that they were great at was graphics. Halo 4 was impossibly beautiful for what it released on. Even Halo 5 was gorgeous in its own right. And the CG was top notch. It was some of the best in the industry, right up there with Blizzard's Diablo and World of Warcraft. But this, it hurts my eyes to play this game. It reminds me of the old B movie Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. It's that level of ugly. They should not have released this. If someone at Xbox cared at all, they would have overhauled the visual makeup of this game. And the thing is, it would have been simple. The easiest thing to do would have been to turn off all the excess crap and the game would have looked 10 times better. Whoever the visual art director is, if they worked for me, they would be fired. A blind art director is no good. Then the fact that they went with Unreal Engine 5 when they own idTech, which is one of the greatest first-person engines in existence, is just stupid on top of stupid. I've seen some ugly stuff, like when I wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, but this game makes me look like a supermodel. But at the end of the day, at least the level design and the structure is still Halo, which is great, but everything else, it feels like it would have been better if AI had made it at this point. And yes, some areas do look good, but anytime you hit darkness, reflections, or shadows, it just falls apart. Because of that, I have to give it a pass. The better version of this game is sitting right there in the Master Chief Collection. Now if you're on PlayStation, this is your only option for Halo, which isn't great, but the choice is always yours. Are you going to play or pass on Halo Campaign Evolved? Thanks for watching, let me know in the comments and I'll talk to y'all later.